On today's show, Dallas Mavericks, Utah Jazz. Whether Luka plays or not, there will be a series. So the Dallas Mavericks will win the series if, and the Mavericks will lose the series if. We'll answer that question and more on today's Locked On Mavs. Let's go.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Best thing you can do to help the show, comment. Comment your butts off on YouTube. Comment as much as you can on YouTube. Takes 30 seconds. Takes less than that. Leave a little comment. Just say hi. Say hello. Just say Raccoon Squad. Just leave a raccoon emoji. I don't care. Just comment. Joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor, writer at Mavs.com. The Bad City Boy, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Can we just take a moment to appreciate that David Locke fell for the joke? He fell. Actually, it wasn't even a joke. He fell for it. If you guys haven't listened,
Forgot the reference.
So the past 2 days, we've done a crossover with David Locke, our boss, leader of the network, host of Locked On Jazz.
Yeah, boss of me in several ways.
And so yesterday's pod, we were having fun towards the end, and I dropped the Utah is a bad city, and he started to attack my Texas education, which I did not go to school in Texas, by the way, but
you did. You went to college, but that's
I did. Yes, I did my master's in Texas, but it was a great moment, funny moment. David is such a guru when it comes to numbers. I thought it was really good stuff. It's really good insight to hear about the Jazz side. So if you haven't listened, go back to listen to the past few days and hear David's deep dive into Jazz stuff, Mavs stuff, and it's a good series primer there the past 2 days.
Yeah, absolutely. But he fell for Dirk's comment after the series win in 2001, where he said Utah's a bad city. And so that's what we've been dropping as a reference here all the time. And a couple of you guys in the comments have been falling for it and just saying, Utah's not a city? What do you mean Utah's not a city? Like, we know. Dirk didn't know. He's not from here. So,
yes.
All right. On today's show, we're going to obviously give an update on Luka. We're going to talk about this series, though. The Mavs win the series if, the Mavs lose the series if, who's the X factor, and all that kind of stuff. The update on Luka is...
I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
Continues to be that. Luka is still, he was at practice. He did not participate in practice, but he's still in full spirits, just kind of doing the same thing, smiling, laughing. I talked about it yesterday on the show. According to Shams Charania, he is not going to play. He's expected to miss game 1 against the Jazz. Not surprised at all. But it's also not conclusive yet. So I would trust what Shams would say. I don't think he's going to put something out there that's completely false like that. We're all kind of expecting him to not play, but not set in stone yet until Friday night. I think like tonight we'll probably get like the set in stone if he's going to play, if he's going to be out or questionable, or the designation for him. And then Saturday morning is when they decide the starting lineups.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Dallas, make him questionable Friday night, take it up until the buzzer until you have to. And then, if he's not going to play on Saturday at the lunchtime game, then you rule him out. And here's the thing. I've been a believer that they can win one of these first 2 games even without Luka. But I'll say this. I think the game has to be game 1. I think that's the game you catch it. You have all the momentum. You're at home. The crowd's going to be into it. And you just lock in defensively. It's the first time you're really seeing each other in a while, even though you played them, a month or so ago. They haven't seen you without Luka. So you got to see that whole how they're going to adjust you and how you're going to play. You just got to try to use the element of newness, surprise, home court, playoffs. And if you're going to steal one at home, I think, without Luka, it's got to be game 1.
Got to run the lasso special. Got to run Loki's toboggan. Got to run the Sandman. Got to run all the special plays.
All of them.
Yeah, I agree too. The Mavs win the series. Let's start walking through this first. If Luka, let's say Luka misses 2 games, okay?
I literally just said if Luka plays. So
if Luka plays at all, like how many games? Let's do this. That question is more interesting. How many games does Luka have to play in order for the Mavs to win this series?
out of 7 games,
Yeah.
at least 4.
Well, yeah, because they have to win 4.
I just like let's just say they split the first 2. Let's say Luka sets out the first 2 and they split the first 2 games.
Yeah.
Then it turns into, a 5-game series basically. So I think Luka has to play, like, even if he set out game 3 and they lost game 3 and they're down 1-2 or 2-1 after 3 games of the series. If you're telling me Luka came back for game 4 and he's 90%, Luka's
2 weeks from his injury, which is big.
Yeah. And they're down, 2-1 in the series. Luka's that good that I think they can win, 3 out of the next 5 games.
So you think he can miss? He can miss 3 games if they win one of them. If they go down 3-0, I just don't think there's a shot.
Yeah, it's tough at that. I love Luke. Yeah, I'm not saying it's impossible, but you're asking a really big task there.
It would be cool for them to be the first team to do it, to come back from down 3-0, right?
Oh yeah, it'd be super cool. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I'm also expecting him to be at the latest game 3 to me, just in how I'm reading this and everything. But yeah, I mean, he has to play at least, let's say he comes back for game 3 and they're down 2 games. I think he's got to play the 5. I think they're going to play 5 more games and take it to 6.
Okay.
Or take it to 7. Actually, that would be 5 more games after 2.
I think the hardest thing to figure out is if they're down 0-2 going into game 3, what's the decision then? Because I mean, you gotta go win game 3.
Is there a decision?
Yeah,
I think Luka's going to try to come back as soon as he can.
I mean, but they're going to hold the cards with that.
I know
it's not going to be just Luka's call.
All right, so
have Jamal Murray in Denver right now.
So we're both in agreement. The Mavs only win the series if they win one of these first couple games, right? Because then they have to have at least one of the first 3 games before Luka comes back.
Okay, one of the first 3, yes.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
I think they could lose the first 2 and Luka comes back for 3 and they could still win. But yes, they have to win one of the, which I mean, I feel like that's Luka or not. They got to win one of the first 3 games.
Yeah, because home court advantage, the Mavs have, if they go 7, they'll have 4 home games. That's really important. The Mavericks have not won a game in Utah since 2016. You know who's on that roster? Charlie Villanueva.
Let's go.
Dwight Powell was still on that roster. Dirk was playing. Our boy Stalin Mejri was playing on that team. Devin Harris was playing on that team. So that's the last time they won in Utah. It's gonna be tough. It's not impossible, but they can definitely do it. But it's gonna be tough. So the Mavs, if they lose one of those first home games, then they lose home court advantage. Then, right? That's sort of the whole point about playoff series.
I put the Luka plays one, but I feel like that was like a cop-out answer. I have a joking one. If Tony Brothers doesn't ref a game, but realistically,
who's our refs like? like not hit list, but
oh gosh,
crap list, but not crap.
But realistically, the Mavs win the series if Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith shoot above 40% from 3. And this has kind of been my thing, just because, I'm operating a little bit, assuming that Luka's going to play a good portion of the series. That healthy Luka out there, they're going to run the pick and roll. That's going to happen all day. Luka's going to get his points. But what teams can't control, like what the Mavericks can't control, and they're going to get open shots, is if those open shots go down. So I think they win the series if Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith shoot above 40% from 3.
And they're talking about playing small. Jason Kidd was asked that question in post practice today, and he said, we'll play what we got to play. Those 3s are going to be there. Dorian Finney-Smith answered the question, what if they try to guard you with Rudy Gobert again? He's like, well, he kind of said it with a smile. He's like, well, I'm going to get a lot of 3s then.
Yeah, so, I love that answer. It's real quick. Some Utah fans took that and like really came at Dorian over that. It's not even like a Rudy. It's not has anything to do with a Rudy shade. It's just the fact that if you're going to put a big on him, he's going to get open threes. So it was just funny to see.
It's schematics. Like it's just how it works. So he's going to get a lot of threes that are open to hit because Rudy Gobert's better in the paint, and that's just what it is. So, all right, coming up, other things. What other factors do the Mavericks have to have in order to win this series? We'll talk about that, and then switch over to the lose the series and more. But before we do that, let me tell you about BetOnline. Best place to go check out series odds for all of these. Ooh, Jazz now a minus 310 favorite. They rose 10 points, which is not much, just a little. So I'm thinking more money went on the Jazz side of things. Go check out some of the other odds that are available right now. The Bucks are still a minus 1400 favorite. That's like the biggest difference by far in any of these series. So go check any of those. They have a ton of other stuff.
Is the Jazz the biggest in the West first round?
The biggest in the West so far. They only have 3 series decided in the West because the Suns one hasn't come up yet.
Yeah.
But the Jazz are minus 310. The Grizzlies are minus 400 against the Timberwolves. That's the biggest one.
Wow. Okay.
That's the biggest one. So if you're feeling strongly about any of those, go ahead and check out BetOnline. It's the best stuff. It doesn't have just NBA. They have baseball all the time. You can bet on your Rangers if you're feeling good about them. They also have some WNBA stuff as well. Odds to win the championship. The Connecticut Sun, the Las Vegas Aces are top there. Go check it out. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game, plus NHL, MLB, all of that with analysis from our local experts. Locked On Now, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Isaac Harris, what are the other factors for the Mavericks to win the series? We've already talked about, okay, if Luka misses the first 2 games, they have to get at least, like, let's say Luka misses the first 3 games, they got to get one of those first 3 without him. So how do they win a game without Luka? You said that Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock have to hit 45% of their threes. They have to be hitting on there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel like that's kind of a different question of what do they have to do to win a game without Luka versus what do they have to do to win the series. To win a game without Luka, that roadmap, I think, looks a little different. If you got to hit, it's kind of what we were saying. I think it was a few days ago. We're saying you have to, if there's a list of like 6 things, you have to hit it like 4 or 5 of those 6 things.
Yeah, right.
Of a slower pace, slower or a smaller scoring game. Like you're looking at like a 92 to 86 type of game, maybe an 80s type of game. It's you're defending well, you're shooting a lot of threes, hitting a lot of threes. You're getting Dinwiddie and Brunson both scoring, 24 to 26 points in that game. Like it's that type of stuff. You're really hounded. Maybe you're doubling Mitchell. You got to get a lot of these things to hit it for a game without Luka to win it. And I think that game could be game 1. I tell you what can't happen is if Luka's not out there, is Brunson has to show up.
Yes.
Like they can't more, I was looking at like Mavs, win the series. If Luka's playing, there is a sense of if Brunson does have a Clippers-like series, you at least still have Dinwiddie that can give you some points as another creator. So they kind of canceled each other out a little bit on win the series, lose the series with either one of those for me. But if Luka's not playing, Brunson has to be like a legit, top 2 option on your team offense wise. And when you look at one of the past few games in which they played them, which has only been 3 times after the trade, which the teams look completely different, that the loss against Utah, Jalen Brunson had 8 points. He just can't have 8 points, especially without Luka. Luka played in that game. He just has to be really good. They're not going to win if he's the Clippers Brunson.
This is his moment, right? Like this for the answer to if they win a game without Luka, and if they win the series, both of them I think depend on Jalen Brunson. He's got to not fully depend, but he has to show up. This is his moment right here. From the beginning of Media Day training camp, when we had him on this podcast, how many times have we brought up this conversation, but it still rings true all the way through to the end of the season now. He said, when talking about that Clippers series, he averaged 19 minutes a game the first 4 games, and then 10 minutes a game the last 3 games. Got played off the floor. Couldn't get playing time because he couldn't get his shot off. There's all these wings, and he just couldn't get going, and then he was getting hunted on defense. He said, you know what? We got to be better. I got to be better. And this is it right here. This is a big moment for him. He's got the contract coming up this offseason. He has the Mavericks, looking to him right now as he's been the starting guard with Luka. Now he's just going to be the starting guard with Dinwiddie. Jason Kidd has said, even since the trade, even since Spencer Dinwiddie came and has been having an incredible stretch there, Brunson is still above him in the pecking order as far as the offense. Everybody's going to be looking at Jalen Brunson, and he has to show up in some of these games because he has to, right? Like it's his moment now.
It's wild when you're trying to look at these games, or really just previewing the series. It's like, it's hard to even find numbers and stats that you can like really pull as like a, as like an argument case for like what to expect or what numbers mean what, because once again, like what this team looked like before the trade was completely different. So I almost throw out that win that they had earlier in the season, or it was a loss earlier in the season.
The Christmas Day one when Luka didn't play.
Exactly. The Christmas Day one. And they had, his KP and all. So then the trade happens.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was saying after the trade, they play 3 games and Rudy didn't play in one of them. And then that narrows it down. I mean, Rudy changes so much for the Jazz. So then you kind of look at, okay, what's the 2 games in which they had their full squads? Well, Brunson didn't play in one of them. So like they really haven't played each other a ton since the big trade.
Once.
Since, one time in which both teams had their full arsenal of players. So Brunson plays such a big role in this team as a secondary creator next to Luka. And if Luka is out, Dinwiddie Brunson show. I mean, they gotta have it.
What's have it though? Is it 25 points? Is it points? Is it just impact? Is it impact buckets? Is it assists?
It's points and assists. I wrote down this question, and I put Dinwiddie in the blank space in this, but if Luka's out, how much of Luka can Dinwiddie be?
Yeah.
And if we want to lump Dinwiddie and Brunson into the same thing of how much of Luka can Dinwiddie and Brunson be? Because I'm looking at Dinwiddie when it comes to, they're going to insert Dinwiddie right into the Luka spot and say, all right, create, score, all of that. Can you match Luka scoring? How much can he be 80% of Luka? Is that being too generous? Can he be 75% of Luka as far as scoring wise? I don't know, but either way, Brunson has to put up 23, 25 points. Right? How big of a moment that would be for Brunson if it was Jalen Brunson who put up 28 in a game 1 win without Luka Doncic. That's like a career defining moment that gets you paid this offseason.
You think that he and Jason Kidd are not talking about that this week? Jason Kidd yesterday in practice, so Wednesday's practice, Brunson was delayed to come over to talk to media because him and Jason Kidd were having a long conversation. And it was like media could kind of see it, that you could hear him talking about it. And
so what car are you buying?
Then right. You've been watching that Winning Time on HBO? Wild, right? Like Jerry Buss. And then Brunson comes over and they ask him, what were you and Jason Kidd talking about? He's like, I just keep that to myself, basketball stuff. They are talking about this because Jason Kidd in this season has said, my job is to win games and to get guys paid. Who else is he getting? Who else is he getting paid? He got Dodo paid already, and now it's Jalen Brunson's time. So you better believe that he is talking up Brunson and saying, "Hey, this is your time."
Like, don't forget about me. What about me?
We never forget about Boban. We never forget about Boban on this. But this is it. Like this is Brunson's time. I don't know if I can keep saying that anymore, but it really is. He's got to come up. To me, it's got to be like a 20, 23 point game. And like 7 to 8 assists or something like that. Because he's got to step up in the playmaking with Luka out. They just have to have those. You have to kick out to those 3-point shooters. They have to be hitting their threes. That's how the offense is really going to work without Luka. And then with him, with Luka, when he comes back, because we are expecting him to come back, one of Brunson and Dinwiddie has to go off, right? Like you just need one of them and those 3-point shooters to still hit. That's what you need from this team. It's this kind of like round, as long as Luka's there, you have this round robin of, okay, Jalen Brunson hits 20, Dinwiddie hits 20, or Dorian and Bullock or Maxey hit like 5 or 6 threes. That's like, you got to have a couple of those things. When you're talking about they need 4 of the 6 things, it's like, those are the things.
Yeah.
Offensively. Yeah. Defensively, if there's a couple of things that we can get into, I think they got to hold Donovan Mitchell to I think they have to hold him to under 30 points. Because if you look at the only time Donovan, so the three times that the Mavs played the Jazz after the trade. So not that. So he had 33 on Christmas Day. Jazz won that game. The game right after the All-Star break, he had 33, and the Jazz also won that one. The other games that Donovan Mitchell has played, he scored 17 points in the Mavs loss early in March. And then he scored 12 points in like this awful game when the Mavs won. I think that was the one without Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
They have to hold Donovan Mitchell. Whether Donovan Mitchell holds himself in crunch time, he's had all kinds of problems. You heard David Locke talk about that on this podcast, but they have to hold Donovan Mitchell, I think, to under 30.
That's good. And they're going to put Dorian on him. Do they bring the double against Donovan? Do they just force him to say, "Hey, like take tough shots. Like we'll live with you taking, 33 footers and all of that." So that's one. I'm also looking at Rudy. The hat tip to David Locke here, as far as, when Rudy scores 20 points and, when the Rick Carlisle days and how Rick coached the Mavs, he mentioned this on the pod and how they just gave up points to Rudy. So I looked up Rudy's 20 plus points games this year. The Jazz are 13-4 when he scores over 20 points. And it's like, can they hold him? You look at, he hasn't scored a ton against Dallas this year.
10 points, 12 points, 14 points. He's taken 5 shots, 6 shots, and 6 shots in the 3 games he's played this year.
Which is a great game plan by Jason Kidd and those guys. So I'm watching that. That's one of, we were breaking down different categories, which I don't even know if we're doing these categories anymore, about one stat that, we're looking at, or a stat that you're watching the series. And for me, it's points per big game for Rudy Gobert. And I don't think a lot of people would think to look at that because he's not a big scorer, obviously. But if you're giving up 20 points to Rudy, then you got some big problems.
He's the most efficient scorer in the NBA because when his points come, he dunks, right? So then that's a super efficient shot. He can't always make those points or fabricate those points in a way, but when he does get him, he's the most efficient scorer. It's kind of wild how it works. Coming up, let's get into how the Mavs lose this series, X factor, all those kind of things. Even if Luka comes back, how could the Mavs lose the series? What could get away from them? We'll talk about that and more. But before we do, let me tell you about Built Bar. I know on Saturday, I'm going to bring a Built Bar with me to the stadium because I'm just going to need something to tide me over. I know I'm going to feel nervous, and I don't know why I'm going to feel nervous. It's going to be one of those crazy playoff crowds. It's going to be a weird early game. It's going to be like this weird afternoon. It's going to feel like when you go to like your like AAU games when they're like afternoon, or you wake up early and go to like a soccer game and you're like there for somebody else. These noon games are very strange. But you're going to need a Built Bar. You're probably going to need a Built Bar at some point. Go check them out. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, 17 grams of protein in these bars that are covered in 100% chocolate. Some of them have marshmallow in the middle. The puffs, they're incredible. Go check them out. Mint brownie, coconut almond, a whole bunch of other different kinds of flavors as well. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You get 15% off your entire order. It's built.com. Also want to tell you about Rock Auto, the ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars. It's impossible for your local chain parts store to get all the parts that you need. How could they have all of them? There's no way that a warehouse can hold them, but Rock Auto can hold them, and they'll ship them right to your house. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. They have everything you can need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today. You just put in your car, the make, the model, the year, all that. They lay it out in front of you. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box. So they know that we sent you. It's amazing prices, amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, Isaac, let's transition a little bit. The Mavs lose this series if ... Let's just throw out of the way if Luka doesn't play a game. Like obviously. If we've already talked about if Luka misses 4 games, the Mavs probably lose this series. What else would have to happen for the Mavs to lose this series?
This is really this is the answer where if Luka does play, it's just as if the shooters go cold.
Yeah.
It's like, because the shooters, we've said this 1,000 times, they will get open shots. Now, a little bit backtracking, if Luka doesn't play, I don't think they get as much open shots. So I don't think it's as dependent on the shooters at that point, because they might not get as many open shots playing with, without Luka. So then I think it does shift to it has to go to Dinwiddie and Brunson. Then can you make up for the scoring? What does the offense look like without Luka? And can those guys team up together to score, to make up for Luka offense wise? And they're going to lose if they can't. If one of those guys is having a bad game, then I don't think they win without Luka.
Yeah. That's it. The margin for error without Luka is very small, very small.
And honestly, I think this will be one of the bigger conversations coming out of this series. If Luka doesn't play for half the series and they lose the series, I think we'll hear the cry even louder for the second star. Yeah. Because if they had a bona fide, locked in Brad Beal type of guy next to Luka, then you're at least going into it saying, all right, we have Brad Beal, we have, so-and-so that is the number 2 that you're like, I know they can pick up the load offensively to at least hold the fort down. And right now we're thinking, Dinwiddie and Brunson can do this, but they're not the proven all-star that that some teams have out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that will come for sure. and the call for big change will happen with the roster for sure. And Nico Harrison, I think he's been building up for something like this. And I think that I think they'll probably try to make a big move, unless they make the finals or the Western Conference Finals. I'm sure they'll still try to make some kind of move. Because they have that draft pick, they got some contracts, they have movable pieces. So, but yeah. The Utah Jazz offense can just overwhelm this Mavs defense, right? We have to see the Mavs defense with the effort and everything that we saw in the beginning of, the beginning of January through the All-Star break. Because since the All-Star break, it's been a little lax. And Jason Kidd talked about that in practice the other day. I thought was notable. He said, there's guys out there, they know what to do. They just got to do it. They have to execute. And so this has to be a high execution game for the Mavs. And if their defense gets overwhelmed by threes, if they try to double Donovan a ton, and then the other guys don't rotate well enough, and so Bogdanovich gets a ton of open threes. I think we asked Locke, we said, if what did we ask him? If Bogdanovich or Jordan Clarkson score more points, is it better if one of those guys scores more points? And he's like, absolutely Bogdanovich, because Bogdanovich is only going to score if he gets all these wide open threes because of rotations and doubling Donovan and all that. Jordan Clarkson gets his points off the bench for the Jazz if he takes over because Donovan Mitchell is out, or if he's not playing well, basically. So if Bogdanovich is scoring a ton, the defense isn't executing, the defense isn't rotating well enough, then all of a sudden the Mavs are in a world of hurt, because this Jazz offense is the best offense in the NBA. Best offense in the NBA. Like, we cannot overlook that. Yeah.
And I mean, they get a lot of open shots too, and they get hit in their threes. I mean, that one of those games after the All-Star break in which they, after the trade in which they beat Dallas, they shot, I think 44% from three.
Yeah, hit 16 of 38.
Yeah, they can light it up. Someday if Luka does play, like, if you just take Luka and Dwight out, then you take Donovan and Rudy out, the 4v4 of Dinwiddie, Brunson, Dorian, Reggie versus Bogdanovich, Clarkson, Conley, O'Neal, that 4v4 is something I'll be watching.
Yeah, does the aggregate of points have to be more in the Mavs' favor for them?
I don't know. I don't
for
even
them
know
to win.
I don't even know what my objective is saying that. I'm just something I'm watching. Those 4 versus the other 4. Yeah,
the core middle of the wings and the guards.
Who's your X factor for Dallas? Do we have the same guy?
I mean, is it always going to be Dorian?
Yes, it is. Yes,
It's always going to be Dorian.
Well, because what if Dorian goes out and has an all-timer lockdown defense series? What if we're looking at 3 games?
And the Mavs are going to be really happy that they paid him and gave him that extension and trade kicker and all that. They're not going to regret it.
Player option. And they already are. They're so happy with that deal. But
yeah,
what if though? Like what if it's a truly, oh wow, he locked Donnie down. Like, it's 3 games into the series and Mitchell's shooting 28% from the field and his averages are down. He's shooting bad shots. The length is really bothering by Dorian. Like, that's huge, especially if Luka, isn't playing a couple of these games. And then obviously the 3-pointers, like whether Luka's playing or not, Rudy's probably going to be, defending him at times. and they're still going to dare Dorian to shoot. And if Dorian is shooting over 40% clip from 3, then that's going to be massive for this team.
And I've said this so many different places now because I've been on radio shows and other podcasts and stuff and asked about Dorian. He's added things to his game too. It's not just threes for him. He can do stuff in other ways too. That's why he's more of an X factor to me than even like Reggie Bullock. Reggie Bullock can get hot. We've seen Bullock get hotter than Dorian, especially at home. We've seen some of these games where Bullock is just going off for threes, and but Dorian's matters more because he can do more. He can come off the dribble. He can hit guys with passes. He can create some open shots, like a couple here and there. He's not going to develop them himself, but he's going to see them and hit them. And he's going to be big. He's going to be a big player, and this is a moment for him too. Not as big as it is for Brunson probably, but this is a huge moment for Dorian.
Yeah, so. One of the stats I'm looking at is, I know I mentioned earlier about the Rudy points per game, or, over 20. Yeah. Something I'm looking at is 3-point attempts for Dallas. They got to hit the 40 mark. Like for me, like you got to attempt 40 a game. And especially if Luka isn't playing, like if your offense has to survive, what?
They're two wins, 46 threes and 49 threes. Their 2 losses, 39 threes and 30 threes.
Exactly. You got they just have to throw up the 3-pointers, please. I can't handle it if we have a 31 attempts from 3 in a game. Please no.
Yep. One of the Mavs losses, they made 30 out of 35 free throws. They lost.
I'm glad you brought the free throw thing.
That was a Christmas Day game, but still.
I mentioned this stat on, this is something I'm watching too on the pod with David.
That game was terrible, wasn't it? 35 threes for the Mavs, 35 free throws for the Mavs, and 37 free throws for the Jazz. That was a bad game.
On Christmas too. The Jazz are number 1 in the league in opponent free throw attempts, just over 19 a game.
They allow the least amount.
So they're not fouling people on shots. I mean, it obviously helps when you have Rudy Gobert protecting the paint. The Mavs are 22nd in the league in free throw attempts. So that's just not a good combination for Dallas that, hey, we need you to get to the line. Like, we need some free throws. Okay. But you're 22nd in the league in doing that. And you're facing the team in the league that is number 1 at the top of the league of, opponent free throw attempts. So that's not a good marriage there. It's not a good, combination, but can Dallas buck that trend? Can they reverse that stat in a way? Can Dinwiddie, are we going to see a very aggressive Dinwiddie trying to drive in and get as many free throws as he can, because they just have to get to the free throw line? That's something I'll definitely be watching.
Yeah. Trying all kinds of rip through moves and trying to get the and ones around the rim, all that kind of stuff.
Because some stats, I'm not worried about, like the rebounding. We're going to lose that. Okay. Like we're going to lose the rebounding battle. Honestly, we're going to lose the points in the paint. Okay, so we just are.
Especially without Luka.
We don't have, a paint protector. Like, teams can score on Dwight in the paint. And they have Rudy. Okay, so, and Donovan Mitchell, they're going to get into the paint. So I'm prepared to lose both of those. You just have to win some of the others. You got to knock down the threes. You got to hit the most threes in this series. You got to attempt over 40 a game. You kind of got to offset. It's the whole thing of when you committed to this style of play and to this roster, you're kind of giving up the rebounding battle in a way. I'm expecting that. They could have a game which they out rebound them. We're kind of giving up the points in the paint thing, especially if Luka's hobbled.
For sure. I just feel like I'm still holding my breath until Luka comes back, right?
I think we all are.
Until they say Luka Doncic will play, I think we're just all holding our breath. But I'm looking for. We said X factor. We talked about Dorian. Luka's the X factor.
Oh yeah.
Because when he comes back, that I think he's going to be so motivated, and I hope it doesn't take him to a point where he overextends himself and gets himself hurt more with the calf situation. But I think he's going to be so motivated that I think he's going to be locked in. Whatever you guys need me to do, whatever you need me to do, coach, I'm going to come back in. I'm going to take over. We're going to win this, because he knows he's lost the last 2. And he wants that monkey off his back too. He wants that probably more than Mavs fans want them to win a series. He is such a competitor.
Yeah. I can't I can't get my mind to the fact of like, what if they lose this series? And I just can't get there yet. I will say this.
Are you okay with the what if they lose this series because Luka was hurt? He misses 3
No.
games, and you're okay with, like, just because they didn't have their full squad. They didn't even have Luka.
But I'm almost more frustrated because you don't have answers. Like, if that happens, then you're still wondering, does this style work in the playoffs with Luka? Does this small ball, do these guys work? Like, I'm not learning anything. I would almost rather everybody be healthy and they lose. And so we'd be like, all right, this doesn't work. Let's go back to the drawing board type of thing. If Luka was fully healthy and this freaking calf thing never happened, what was your prediction for the series? Because I was I was so prepared to go in against David Locke in our pod
against him.
I'm just saying, I was fully all in. Mavs in 5, maybe 6.
Yeah.
If Luka was fully healthy and the calf thing never happened, and I was ready for that battle, like Jon Snow, okay, fighting the whole state of Utah, and then obviously the Luka calf thing just was a wrench into everything.
I would have said Mavs in 6 too. They win that. Everybody wins at home, and then the Mavs win that last game on the road in Utah.
All right, I can't go there. I can't think about this any longer of what if Luka didn't get hurt. But as a kind of a joke about it, this will be one of our what if pods. Like, if the Mavs,
it will be. This offseason.
This will be one of the bigger what ifs that, we've, for the past offseason, we've done these what if pods. And this will be one of those in history for the Mavs that if the Mavs lose, we say, man, what if Luka never got hurt? They were the 3 seed, or the 4 seed. Like, this is crazy. Like, they had a good year rolling. Defense is good. But
that'll be a what if in a lot of different ways, especially for the offseason. So we'll definitely do that. We bake it into our offseason content. We're here every single day. We'll be back tomorrow with an episode. We'll be back, obviously, Saturday. We'll be back Saturday for sure with a post game. We'll break it all down. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.